Hey, Facebook, welcome in. This is Nathan Adams, but his title is Cadet Corporal Nathan Adams, who is at West Point, a student at West Point, or I guess is perhaps an officer at West Point, who's home for spring break. He's a native of Franklin, I think I just said that, and a graduate of Hanson High School. Tell everybody hi and tell us what are you up to at West Point?
Yes, sir. So, hey, all. As he said, my name is Nathan Adams, and I'm currently a cadet over at West Point, studying in mechanical engineering and with a minor in Russian, and just working to train to eventually be an officer in the United States Army.
So, what got you involved in engineering?
Yes, sir. So I've always loved to go and play with things with my hands, and then I love the idea of being able to like take something from an idea or a problem that you have and bring it all the way to the point of an actual solution through the form of whatever that may be. And engineering is the process of doing it, and it's really cool just to be able to take something that I feel like I did a lot as a kid and now be able to take that into a structured process that I can go through.
I know we were chatting earlier, and you said you want to be involved with making prosthetics. Is someone in your family a little disabled that causing you to feel that way?
No, sir. I've just, it's kind of a funny story of whenever I was in freshman year, I did a lot of, we had current events that we had to do every week. And I realized I did a whole bunch of them on like prosthetics or like neural and haptic technology. And I did a little bit of like personal research outside of that. And I found I really enjoyed it. And I'm involved in some research over at West Point right now, dealing with like muscle sensors or electromyography, and I've just absolutely loved every second of it.
Well, I know you're on an unofficial trip to recruit folks your age to go to West Point. Tell us a little bit about what's it like being there. What's a day in your life like there?
Yes, sir. So just here to spread the word about West Point. And throughout cadets' lives, it varies depending on what clubs or activities you're involved in. However, at the end of the day, it boils down to a few things. Of we have some type of formations, typically morning and lunch formation, and then afterwards you have a mandated meals at breakfast and lunch that you have to go to. In between those two periods, you have different classes. So depending on your major and what year you're in, depends on what classes you'll take. And then along with those things, you typically wrap up the day with some type of practice or training for whatever clubs or events you're in. So I'm involved in the Army Combatives team. So I go and I'll end up going practice with them from 4:30 to 6 most days.
Wow. So what happens after that?
So after that, I normally go get dinner, shower, and then it's a mixture of if you have meetings at the back half of the day, you'll go to those, as well as like homework. And if you're good at managing your time, you have a little bit of free time at the end of the day to spend with friends and get a little bit of that downtime.
Do y'all have like a lights out, mandatory lights out?
So not a mandatory lights out, but there is something known as taps at 11:30 on most days where you have to be in your room. So like obviously if you need to go to the bathroom, you're not stuck there, but generally you need to be in your room by taps. And but there's no official lights out.
Okay. And then, so tell everybody, what time do you normally crash for the evening?
Yes, sir. So I normally go to sleep right around like 11:30, 11:45. Occasionally, very rarely, I'll get that night where I'm in bed by about like 10, 10:15, but it's normally about 11:30 or later.
And what time do you get up?
6 o'clock, 6:15. Occasionally, I'll like go for a run in the morning, but that's not too often.
Do y'all have like a reveille kind of thing?
No, sir. So that would be through the form of our formation. So we have a formation at 6:50. That we have to go to and be like in our uniform with our rooms to standard. But before 6:50, you don't have to be anywhere.
Okay. So do they check your room in the morning, or do you?
Yes, sir. So they have what's known as morning and afternoon inspection. So afternoon inspection, you don't often see people get inspected, but with morning inspections or AMI, your room has to be in a certain standard. So your bed has to be made to very specific regulations. Your clothes have to be put up a certain way. You can't have like the sink wet It's a whole bunch of things, and your superior or whoever's in your chain of command will come and check you out in the morning to make sure your room is up to standard.
Wow. So how do guys deal with that kind of pressure?
It's not as bad as you would think because a lot of like what needs to be done you do at the beginning of the semester, and then it comes down to like regular maintenance throughout. So it's a matter of like you do a lot of the hard work in that first like 2 or 3 days that you're back, and then throughout the semester you're just making sure your room stays clean and that everything stays where it needs to.
Okay, and suppose the sink is wet one day, what's going to happen?
So typically, what would happen is you would end up like there's a chance you could end up failing the morning inspection, which isn't too big a deal your first time, but normally it just means that. Also, I forgot to mention during morning inspection, like your doors have to be open and you can't like take a nap or anything. So they would just extend that from 12:30 to like 16:30, or 4:30. Sorry, they would just extend that to 4:30, and if it happens too many times, then you may have to be counseled by your chain of command or by your TAC officer.
Okay, so I guess you're in a dorm?
Yes, sir. We call them barracks, but they're very similar to a college dorm.
And so how many are on your floor?
So I have about 130 people on my floor.
Wow.
In rooms housing between 2 and 4 cadets.
Wow. So you got some roommates?
Yes, sir. I have 2 other roommates, both sophomores.
Okay. And so where are they from?
So one of my roommates is from over in Washington, and then my other roommate is next to our neighbor in Texas.
Okay. Is there anybody from Louisiana?
So I know quite a few people. There's a bunch of cadets. There's about 4 of them in my company, 4 or 5 in my company who are from Louisiana. I know we have 1 from Shreveport, 1 from Lafayette, and I think 2 from Baton Rouge, off the top of my head. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so do y'all connect and have like a little private meeting away from everybody?
Not quite a private meeting, but we normally do have things I'll go on. So I've gotten into a habit of bringing some boudin back up with me whenever I go, and I'll like just keep it in our company fridge. So I've brought boudin a couple times to celebrate. And then the Louisiana Parents Club has also gotten food for us on numerous occasions and just help like bring a little bit of Louisiana back up to New York.
So what's the weather like up there?
Very cold. It's cold, it's gray, but you do have like actual seasons, which is pretty cool, especially coming from Louisiana where we have hot and dry and then hot and wet as our 2 seasons. So it's definitely been a new experience to see go from full blooming trees and everything in the middle of the springtime and summer all the way to like barren trees with all the leaves on the ground to pouring snow every week or 2.
So do you have to go stand outside and any of that?
So yes, sir. So for the formations, you're all outside. So you're standing there. It's only like 5-10 minutes. It's not bad. But you're standing outside for that period while they take accountability or basically checking to see is everyone present or where they should be. And then afterwards, you're done for that, unless you have like a specific training event.
Okay. So have you seen anybody just like, I can't do this anymore, or?
It doesn't happen often, but you definitely have a few. It takes a very select group of people to go to West Point. And not better or worse, but it doesn't always work for some people, and so they end up leaving. But everyone there is a good person, regardless of whether or not they stay.
All right. So what's your words to encourage someone to consider West Point?
I think it comes down for me of like, due to the standards that it takes to get into West Point, you meet some of the most amazing people you ever see. Be that cadets, instructors, the officers in charge of you. You will meet some of the most amazing people you'll see there, and they will push you to limits that you haven't seen because of how like the collective majority is. It tends to push you. If you've ever heard the phrase, you're the culmination of the top 5 people you spend the most time with, that is extremely true, and it shows at West Point. Of looking back 2 years ago, that me wouldn't have been able to believe some of the things I've been able to accomplish and push through.
Really? Do you feel like if let me ask you a question? Do you feel like if you were at another place, perhaps maybe you wouldn't have made those accomplishments?
I think that's definitely true, sir. I think I would have like done well at other places. But I really do believe that West Point has pushed me to be better and pushed me in a lot of ways that just the other places don't have the opportunity to do that.
So if someone is interested in West Point, can they call you or is there a number they can call?
So if you're interested, you can go to the West Point admissions page as well as like the PAO department over there. They will take any type of questions or any comments that you may have. That's probably the best place to go for any answers.
Before we end our conversation with Cadet Adams, we want to let him talk about these medals he's wearing. So let's start on your right side above your name, and I'm going to get a close-up. What is that for?
Yes, sir. So that is one of the wreaths that you get for being the top 15% of your class. So everything you do at West Point is graded. So academically, militarily, and physically, it's all graded, and they put that into your class rank. And depending on where you're ranked, depends on like this. And I end up being in the top 15%. So that's how I got that wreath right there.
And the one above that one?
That is for the Norwegian Foot March. So I actually have the silver, which is 2 times completed. But it is basically an 18.6 mile or a 30-kilometer ruck march with 11 kilograms or 25 pounds of load. So you're just marching with a really heavy book sack for 18.6 miles. And then the color around it denotes what you end up with. So bronze is 1 time, silver, which I have and just haven't gotten the medal for it yet, is 2 times, and then gold is 5.
Wow. All right. And then on your left?
Yes, sir. So those are air assault wings. So air assault is a course where you're taught how to work and manage areas around helicopters. So if you're hooking up loads to them to help like them carry them off, or if you have to what's called air assault out of the helicopter or rappel outside of it, that course will teach you how to do it. And I went through that last summer, which is how I earned my wings.
So you fell out of the helicopter?
Rappelled out, but yes, sir.
And tell us, how far did you fall down?
It was about 40, 50 feet in the air, using the actual ropes that you do.
Okay. Were you nervous?
Not particularly. I mean, I think there's a little bit of nerves that's present in everyone, but generally I was just super excited to get to that point. It's probably the most fun thing you do in that course, so I had a lot of fun with it.
All right. And before we go again, tell everybody, if you're interested in West Point, where do you go?
Yes, sir. So if you're interested in West Point, the best place to contact is the West Point admissions. So you can access that through the West Point office, through the West Point website. Additionally, they'll have a link for the PAO team if you have any questions there.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.